Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. Friday. Turn our music up just a little bit here. Trying to hit that balance. You can hear the music, but it's not like, oh, it's so oppressive. It should be like right about there. I think it's right there. Hang on. No, hang on. Yes, yes. No, yes. Thank you. Yes. Wow. I'm allergic to my show already. We just started. I'm already allergic to my show. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okie dokie pokey okie smoky. Hang on. Hang on to what? Hang on to your horses. Hang on to the guardrails. Okay. So far, my Friday's fine. I feel like I won't have enough coffee, though. We'll have to see. I made a pagoda building last night. So we're pagoda building. That's a thing. We're doing pagoda buildings. Still building buildings. There's never enough coffee. There's never enough coffee. It's a truism. It's a truism. Anyway, so let's see. What else are we doing here? We're getting started today, and it's a Friday. I'm not quite online because I'm trying to decide if I'm going to sneeze again. I hate that. Oh, well. I'm just going to get to work. If I sneeze, I sneeze. How are you doing this morning, Brent? I had a banana this morning. I love bananas. Okay. I've completed this one. This one's done. The pagoda building. However, this happened last night. I was building this one just as my wife came home, and I'm not blaming her or anything. Well, no, maybe I'm blaming her. But I want to make double sure that I've got the files for it. Okay, good. The pagoda building. Okay. We have a number of weird little houses here and stuff like that. Feudal Japan style. Yeah, so I was looking at, our little exterior buildings, and I saw that building. Where did I see it? It was right here. This building. So I was kind of like, well, I kind of like the shape of this building. So I built that building this way too. I mean, we can understand that there's multiple different little critters we can do too. We can stack them on top of one another. We can do all kinds of things. So you can have 5-story buildings that are the pagoda building on top of a normal building or whatever. We can make different things. We should make some tall, thin buildings though today is what I think we're going to do. Some thin, kind of weird shaped buildings that go in between buildings or something. Maybe bridges. I see back here, I see like a bridge sort of thing back there, like some kind of glass walkway going for it. I figure this section right up here is this section right here. Right? a triangle footprint. So I was just talking to my wife about this one this morning too. No matter which way you put it, the best possible shape for habitation is a square. And the reason is because we lay down in a linear line. And so if you make it round, then people can't put a bed against the wall because you end up having to put the bed like this in a crossways section, right? Because people don't sleep like this. They don't conform to walls. And the same thing goes with a triangle. You end up with a juncture like this. You can't stack boxes like in here. You can't put things there. All you can do is put a plant. So we have to decide what is science fiction-y enough, but really the truth is squares and boxes are the best habitation method for us. There's there's no better way than squares and boxes. Big round things don't tend to get inhabited. It's why houses aren't geodesic domes. My wife's dad used to live in a geodesic dome, and the house had dead space because what you really had was the dome, and then inside the dome he had built square rooms. So you ended up with all this round dead space between where the rooms were, because of course then the dome also climbs up like this, and you can't walk any further than this spot without hitting your head on the side of the dome. So the space is useless at some point on a dome, and a pyramid is the same problem. The pyramid has an issue. Yeah. And I mean, then clearly there are buildings out there that are built round, and there are, like a step pyramid might not be a bad idea, because then it's still square, but the one on top of it is narrower and still square. So a pyramid would work fine. Or space AG, we could flip the step pyramid and have smaller, bigger, 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 and go upward in a step pyramid upside down. Right? That'd be all space AG and weird. But the question I had was Quonset huts. Why would we use Quonset huts? Why do we use Quonset huts? And the answer really is fast construction. They're easy to build, and they're permanent structures once built. And they self-support. The structure of a Quonset hut self-supports, so it doesn't fall down. And they're easy to tear down and break down if you really need to move quick. So there's that. Anyway, okay, so I verified that this object does exist, so I'm going to delete it. Right, they're fast, they're cheap, they're easy to make. But you know what's going to happen here in this world. They're going to have printers, and they'll print. Right? So why worry about it? We're going to print. Right? So we'll just put a printer robot out there, and it'll start going. And a day later, you've got whatever building you programmed into the printer. I hate to say that, but that's totally what I would do, right? Cube. Edit mode. Well, we need to get out of this and get into modeling. There we go. No. Edit mode. Ravage. Eject. Operation. Annihilation. Soundwave was the best. Fight anybody who says differently. Well, yeah, but I mean, why would you print that? If you don't, so I'm trying to think the logic out, right? Why would you make a Quonset hut? And Quonset huts are spelled really weird. I'm just saying, because you're right. I don't know what in the world that means either. And in fact, I'm not going to even bother to try to correct you on how to spell Quonset hut because I don't think I can. And I was an English teacher. But legitimately, I think it's like Quoset. Like, what? So there's that. Okay. Talk about buildings that are not 2 meters wide, but still very narrow in footprint. I mean, 6 meters is still very, very small and narrow. So now we have sort of this guy, right? Yeah, Quonset. Anyway, but why would you build it? Again, the living space inside there is useless. That's what I'm kind of trying to think through here. Like, well, okay. Feel like we can do up, and this will be the deck above, if you will. And we'll do what we did with the other guys and make the deck larger. And drop it down. And then I'll take this guy. And we're going to do something else. We're going to make a fin or something. This could be a weather station, maybe. So let's try that. And give it kind of a weird shape that's only like 2 meters wide on the inside on this upper deck. Yeah, I mean, it's fine because the curve like this, you put a bed here and it works. But still, you can't put anything but a bed or a chest of drawers or something that sticks out from that section there because you've got a loss of space in this zone. To here, the moment that the curve of the building falls below 2 meters, you can't do anything with that space anymore. And that's not to say that it's completely useless. I'm just saying it's difficult. It becomes a difficult sort of thing. That's all. I mean, it's certainly still a usable function. Absolutely, obviously, or you wouldn't have it. You know, it wouldn't be a thing that we would use. I mean, the military is generally very, very conscious of how, when, where, and how much usage of its resources it has. So it wouldn't make sense if it was a completely useless design. I just think that the practicality of it is probably better served because of its construction. The reason we use Quonset huts, the military uses Quonset huts, is because of the speed of construction, not because of the expedience of the space inside. And so what I'm trying to kind of get at is I think that what you'd find is if you've got printers that can print buildings and you can print any building you want in any way you want with a little trundling robot that just goes out there with a little cable that's full of concrete or whatever going to it, and it just sits out there and trundles along and then builds whatever design you want to build, you wouldn't build a Quonset hut because of the loss of space at that very corner of the Quonset hut where all you can do is put beds. If nothing else, people like to design stuff differently, and they'll get annoyed with the fact that the beds always must be in the corners. So, yeah, this isn't really saying Quonset huts suck. They don't. I mean, but my thought really is that I think that if we had the ability to build anything, we wouldn't build round things unless we were trying to be cutesy, which is entirely plausible, but practically speaking, we wouldn't do that. That's where I'm kind of heading on this. So this is at the 4.5. So we probably should do this because this is one floor, and 2.5 meters is enough for a door on the front. Yeah, I'm certainly not knocking Quonset huts. That'll give us some very large structure sitting out there. You're like, what does that building do? I don't know. It's an atmospheric processor. Or maybe it's a gravity sensor. I mean, we're in the universe of... I was actually thinking about this watching Discovery, how even though I consider the technology of the Unity to be slightly behind the technology of the Federation, and certainly behind the technology of the Federation in Discovery season 3-4, they would actually be better off for the problem child of season 4, which I won't get into too much detail because I'm not sure how far you guys have gotten. But it's clearly Dr. McDonald has been talking to them. I see you, Dr. McDonald. We know you. We know you're into this stuff, man. We know it. We know it. So, Dr. McDonald is one of my favorite people on the planet. She is awesome. She's a super geek, and she does like all these talks where she'll go to conventions. Oh, I appreciate that. She'll go to conventions, and I interviewed her once, and she's got like "Live Long and Prosper" tattooed on her arm in Vulcan. And I was like, sweet, you're my kind of person. Yeah, Dr. McDonald's cool. So she's now also working as the science advisor on Star Trek, which is a dream job for her. So, but her doctoral thesis was on gravity. And so this season, they're having problems with gravity. And I was like, well, I can see Dr. McDonald's footprint all over this season. So, but my people have gravity sensors, so they would have actually sensed it. The anomaly. The DMA, dark matter anomaly that they're dealing with. I'm just saying. So, let's see here. So now I think I'm just going to call this one good. I'm going to go in here and we'll do this. Put it in non-naked mode. Select faces. Select all of those front faces and say UV, project from view, right? Actually, let's make these matched in size. I've discovered that that's the trick, right? Say UV project from view. Then you can select this guy here and put him that way. Then we just go there and we say UV project from view. And we select all of these guys and say UV. And we only need you, you, and you for the top. And the bottom should be relatively easy to snag. I'm going to naked mode, select the whole 9 yards, make sure. And something didn't get picked up. Looks like from the front, maybe? There's. So, here's the front. We'll go like this, then we'll say you. Yep, you got confused somehow. And left side, right side, top. Yep. Well, not an unwise move, my friend. Not an unwise move. So, where'd you go? How'd you end up over there? Oh. Oh. That's part of our problem. That's the real roof. You're not my real roof. Project from view. There we go. That's the real roof. All right. That solved that. Okay, good. I still don't know where you two are. Because I've got every last section of this. Well, okay, I believe I've got every last section of this, but then obviously I don't. So there's that. So we'll do roof, underside. I don't know who these guys are. Hoping for the best on this. Because, I mean, it could be anything. Oh, well. I feel like I could probably squeeze a little bit more space out of this if I were to take these guys, move them like this. Move these guys right in between like so. And a little bit more space out of it. Not, a whole lot, but anything. I mean, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because these are all random pieces of randomness. So, all right. Control Shift S. Right. Open recent U. Paste. And we'll call this I don't know, we'll call this not standard. 1-story building 1, and we'll call it Fin building. It's a Fin building. Yeah, these are just background buildings. And then we'll export the model. Same thing, call it the same thing. I will never figure it out. Right. One thing we talked about yesterday is how critical it is to keep your naming convention working together. Okay, we now have 5 random buildings in which we can do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I mean, the city map is one thing, but I think that I feel kind of like, so here is the thing about Moment. Moment as a world is one of the few worlds in Unity which has an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Most of the worlds in the Unity are toxic in one way or another. I have a concept in my head that carbon dioxide is easier to come by. Hydrogen is the easiest thing to come by, but oxygen is actually kind of difficult to come by in the universe unless you have life, unless plants start to grow on your planet. If plants start to grow on your planet, then they start converting and you start ending up with oxygen. And then you need a higher life form to get the oxygen back to carbon dioxide. And then you have that balance back and forth that we've got here in our environment, our biome here. But I don't believe that we're not going to find that many planets out there that are oxygen and nitrogen. Just by the law of averages, So there's going to be a different structure about the things on Moment than everywhere else. Most places will have a dome, and inside the dome will be your city. And so they'll have sort of a standard layout for the inside of the dome cities. They'll all be kind of the same. Because, I mean, really, honestly, as time goes on, you'll just have sort of a standard layout of how cities go. And they'll all sort of start being uniform. The center of the city will always be sort of your high rises because they sit the best inside the dome. Unlike building a building, domes will be the ideal situation for habitats because they are able to hold pressure, right? So external pressure because anything with any kind of failure points are going to collapse when under pressure. That's why submarines are round. That's why windows on airplanes are rounded, because you don't want any failure points on that. So since there's pressure involved, that's a different story. So we're going to do something else here. I actually am kind of curious. Don't save. You. Because I'm not sure where we were with this guy. Yeah, see, I feel like this body is way too complex for what we do in our I mean, it's cute. Don't get me wrong. But this is going to take us forever to map. And we can't have different versions of it. It'll literally always be this version. And literally never be anything else. So I'm kind of thinking of making a modified version of our GPV. So let's resin print it and see how complicated it is. Yeah, I think that the GPVs would be beautiful resin printed. The problem is that we can't map it differently. Like, if you look at this way, or I guess actually like this, there's literally only one canopy we can have on it. This one. We can't have any other canopies. We can't have a version that only has this part of it as the canopy, and this part's not. We can't have a strut that goes over the top here that delineates between the two canopies. It's too complex. So we're going to build a simpler version of this real quick. That's what we're going to do today, because this is too complex. We're going to destroy this completely. Absolutely destroy it. Because even the legs are too complex. It's way too complex. So let's go to object mode, add mesh cube, and take this cube. And we're just going to build the same thing as this, but I'm going to build it in a simpler mode. We are not going to delete this, by the way. That way you can resin print this to your heart's content. Because it's not a horrible model. It's just really difficult to make it multi-purpose. So we're going to extrude this to about here. And take this and extrude this to there, and then extrude it again to there. And that way we can get sort of that wheel well that we've got going on back here for this back wheel well section. I'm going to take this, and actually I'm going to take this and extrude it forward to here, and then just a little bit further forward to there. All right, now we've kind of got this bottom structure kind of going on. Look from the front, extend this out to about there, and then you out to there. It's a much simpler design. Then going from the top, I can see already that I kind of want to bring these guys in, because they need to be together more. Closer to that. And then these guys too. And now what we have is effectively a sled, right? Now I can put a different front on it. We can have a truck front, or we can have a car front, or we can have all kinds of fronts on it. This sled then will connect to these guys. And that's going to be the central part of this. The back part's going to be the sled, which will have the engines on it and an engine room. Sledding down a hill, yes. And we're going to have Q in Discovery. Not in Discovery. Oh, Q has been showing up in Lower Decks, which I guess is particularly funny. There we go. I'm going to pull this back a little. I'm going to put the engine pods on top here like this, going on either side of it. But for the most part, we're going to kind of keep that the way that is, right that way. I'm going to bring you in a little bit more. No reason to actually pull that all the way back. Maybe. I kind of feel like Q has been hysterical as John Delancey. And I kind of feel like it would be not disingenuous, but I don't know if anybody could pull it off quite like John Delancey could. Now, who knows? I mean, you know, and there are some extraordinarily talented actors out there. There we go. I have, by the way, always sort of envisioned that there was a walking sled and then you just snapped things onto the front of it. And that made it different for that way the walking sled could walk with a truck, you know. And I've kind of thought that that would be kind of useful as well. So you put the truck on the sled and the sled would walk along and stuff. So this is not, in fact, like that weird of a concept. So there's the sled piece. Now we'll put engines on it. Go back to object mode, select nothing, add mesh, and add another cube. This time we're going to take this cube and shove it. No, we're going to take this cube and we're going to rotate the cube so that it matches the angle of the sled. And give it its Mickey Mouse ears. Here we go. I don't know why I did that. I could just put it in edit mode and then, you know, make all of this match like a normal human. Oh, well. Sometimes you do the weirdest stuff. There's really no rhyme or reason for it. And we're going to do this. Like so. And give it its Mickey Mouse ears here. And maybe Jeremy Renner is an interesting fella. And then plausibly that could work too. I mean, you're right. Jeremy Renner. Haven't seen Hawkeye yet. I want to. I am a fan of Haley Stein. She was in Bumblebee, and I loved Bumblebee. That was a great movie. So I have become a fan of hers. So kind of looking forward to Hawkeye. Steinfeld. Yeah. Yep. I dig her. She's cool. Must resist the urge to call her Steinway. Make her into a piano. Which is actually part of the reason why I was hesitating so much there. I was like, it's not Steinway. I know it's not. That's a piano. There's something going on here. I know it's not Steinway. What's wrong with me? If we do this. Okay. Now we have an engine pod. I'm doing this a whole lot differently than I did when I did that first. This guy. That guy took days. This is only taking a few minutes. Yeah, maybe. Think they're suffering from infamous fatigue. I don't know. I mean, entirely plausible. I'm not going to say you're wrong. Personally, I don't have enough invested in the MCU. So I'm not, it doesn't bother me. You know, it's not affecting me any. So we'll just, if it does, it does. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You're nice. Thanks. Like
we're going to totally be weird and shape ourselves strangely.
There we go. Actually, looks pretty kick butt. It's interesting because Simpler still has sort of this same feel, but the sled is a completely different beast. Like, it's a much simpler design. It's going to be a whole lot easier for us to map. It's not going to be as big of a deal. So also more logical, because we can now put anything we want on these sleds and they'll still work. So the next is we're going to go into object mode. We're going to select you and we're going to delete it. Right? Okay, you. Add modifier. Boolean. Union. You. Right? And we'll accept it. I'll say Boolean. Add modifier. Union. You. We'll accept it. Now the sled is all one unit. And we'll have to pull out so we can get the old Mickey Mouse ears and delete them. Right. But here is now the sled with engines. So that's a fuel tank, space engines, things like that. Now we're going to have to put the connector joint, the joist for this thing. Now, in the original version, this had a ball. The problem that I have with balls, that didn't come out right. Anything that's rounded has an issue when you map it, because then it vanishes, right? Because we're going to do things where we render it all the way down into black and white. So when we have something that's spherical, or like the Quonset huts that we were talking about before, where they're rounded along the top, if you turn them sideways, it's going to look like the roof disappeared, because there's no way for me to put a black line only on the top of whichever angle you're on. I can do all of it black, but I can't do some of it black. And I'll have to always go in and manually put in a line along all those tops. So I want to be as cautious as I can with lines, with anything rounded, and make it very minimal so that I don't have to render the object in the background with lines. So our best bet is to actually go in here and add a cube to be this connector piece, and then just accept that, or maybe an 8-sided cube, or an octagon. We could probably do an octagon, or even a hexagon. But the rounder we get on it, the more likely that the between the joint pieces will end up stuck away from the camera's view, and you'll end up with no line there. So we want to be very cautious how few or how many lines that we have. So we're going to do that. We're going to go back into object mode. We're going to, okay, we've screwed up. Edit mode. Undo, 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 undo. Thank you. Go back into object mode. Add mesh. So these icospheres, if they made icocylinders, we'd be fine. But they don't. So edit mode. Just take the top and extend. Go to the side.
The other thing that we're going to do about this particular thing, this is what I wanted to do yesterday. The other thing we're going to do here is we're going to use the standard wheels that we've already built because they're already mapped. And so we don't need to do anything else with them. And they should be just fine. So we're going to build new legs that hold the standard wheels. These guys were awesome looking when we made them the first time around. But as far as mapping goes, they're a mess and just horrible to deal with. So the major reason we're doing this is because it's really hard to deal with these guys as far as mapping goes. So we're just making this guy into an octagon-ish. There. So now I have sort of an octagon-esque wheel container thing, widget, which will be where the legs connect. It'll be fine. It'll look just like it's supposed to. What I will do is I will do a little bit of fake out here. I'll do a round internal circle in here. So the circle will be round so that the 8 sides won't look as obviously 8-sided. A little bit of, creative optical illusion. This goes to the bottom of the sled. Right here. Get a little smaller, but not much. There we go. Just so it's not on top of the sled sled operators. We'll push this guy out to about there. And this guy out to about there. Right? And that's how we knew we were unbalanced. Okay, well, that's not going to help us any. Okay, so the other cool thing about doing it with a sled is you could totally have that. The walker is walking along and then a missile goes boom and takes the entire front part off. And all you have is the legs in this back sled piece kind of going click, 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 and then falling over. Boy, that's disturbing. It could happen. Did you really build yourself weirdly like that? Strange. There. That helps a whole lot. Being centered. Actually, we're going to center this guy. Let's center it correctly. Because that's where it's going to be, right? The center of object will be right at the wheel pod. There we go. So what I'm doing now is taking the object. This is its center point right there. So I'm taking our object and I'm just moving its center point so that the center point is A, lined up with the actual model, and B, set up in a way that when I pivot it, it's going to pivot at the wheel roll and not pivot back here like that. We don't want it to pivot like that. Like this guy's not anywhere near his pivot point. There we go. Go to edit mode. I'm going to grab them and bring them all the way back down here. Like there. People. Now we can go to object mode and move him down. There we go. Now that should give us that. And then we'll move him sideways. Ugh. Edit mode. Move him backward to the pivot point. Dead center. In there. Okay, object mode. Okay, so now this is inside the shell. So we want to make sure it's outside the shell. So we're going to do this. Edit mode. And go all the way out to here because it's got to be in the center of both legs. So we're going to go out to here. Right? That's going to be the center of both legs. Let's go sideways here real quick. Make sure it matches. Yep. Right about where the center point of these legs are. Perfect. Now I'm going to keep this octagon because I just made it. But first we're going to Boolean it together. So let's go to object mode, U, add modifier, Boolean, onion. Click. And apply. Now the main hull has a wheelbase. Now the legs are going to come out of that, but this is still going to be also these center pieces now. So we're going to move it forward to where the center pieces are. They're right here. And then equidistant back, they're right here too. Now in the end, I think we kind of want the wheels to be up here ish. Time to go to lunch. Catch up with me when you get home. Okay, so we want the legs to slide together and come out like scissors. But I feel like the inside legs, well, see, before we had the inside legs, and I feel like the inside legs were inside before, and now they need to be outside. And the wheel needs to be sandwiched between the wheel and the inside leg joint. And the reason I'm saying that is because if they're outside, they can come up and then go together like this at the hull piece and sort of protect all of this interior stuff with your outer leg. But let's first take our quick break. Oh my goodness, which is good because I think I need to stand up. I've been sitting at my stool thing too long. All right. Okay. So we all stand up. We reach for the fan. Okay, good. Oh, look, I can reach for the microphone. Right. I'm always easily irritated. Pop her back. Shake everything out. Walk around like a zombie. Continue to walk around like a zombie. Walk back like a zombie. All right. Woo. That's good. Okay, back to work. All right. So this guy, this joint, some of the things we didn't do before was I did a whole bunch of, I don't know, that looks good sort of stuff. And the truth of the matter is, looks good and engineered properly probably are two different things. So let's talk a little bit about this. We want the leg to extend out to twice up what this leg is. So this leg's 3 apart, so we'll go to 3 out. And that puts us pretty much in line right here with the outside of the vehicle. This allows us to have one leg going out this way, an inner leg going this way, or an outer leg, I guess, and then a wheel. Because we've got 3 things that are on these joints, right? We've got the inner leg coming to that joint. We got the outer leg, which hooks into that joint here and then slides up, and then we have the wheel. So we got to make sure that we're able to hold the wheel. It's kind of important. But it doesn't need to be all the way out. The wheel can actually kind of extend to here on this. So we'll do that. All right. So I like the look of that. Boy, that puts serious, look at that. Like, that's a thing. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. So let's go to the side. Go back into object mode. Select nothing. Add mesh cube. We're going to work on the leg. The leg goes between these two, so we'll just go ahead and quickly throw that together because it's really not going to be that hard. Go to edit mode. Already naked. Already naked. So we'll make this look cool, but it doesn't have to be that difficult or complicated. We know we're going to be pivoting somewhere in the center. So we want to make sure that we have it set for a pivot in the center. Engineering wise, I want to let it go kind of down like this. That sounds fine. Extrude out. Just kind of let it have sort of a moment here, Give it kind of a cool effect. Extrude down for this. And that's the garage door opening. My wife leaving. All right, do that. And give it a little bit of just a little bit of a hook on it. That way, when it's forward and out, and when they're out moving, it's got a little bit of just a push down, just a hair. All right, just a little bit to kind of give it that kind of shape. We'll go to the side now, and we'll push this guy to inside is to here. There we go. Okay. To the side, one leg in. I've had some time to kind of practice, and I'm getting much faster at the build function. And so it's been a lot faster trying to get to build. There's no reason not to make this bigger. Right. Now we'll take the whole mess now that we've built it, and we'll make sure that it's pivoted right there. Because we really want the leg to move pivot-wise from its center point. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into edit mode and make sure that this front piece just sits nicely. Doesn't act silly. We can give it some. There we go. It still has sort of a rakish front. So it's still kind of forward and rakish, but it doesn't look horrible on that one. Hard to see it at this angle because of all of the other crap that's here. So we're going to go ahead and go to object mode, and I'm going to take some of these other guys and move them out because they're not helping me at this point. Because we need to build this guy and make him look right, you know? There we go. So under the same token of making it look a little bit more rakish and stuff, I'm going to bring this in, but it's very important that I don't bring this side in because there's going to be another leg here. And so it's critical that I don't change the shape of that, or we're going to have to change both legs to be at an angle like this so that they'll fit together. So we don't want that to happen. But it does mean that I can do something about this guy. I'm going to bring this guy in just a little, like so. And just saves ourselves a little bit of space, right? Also noticing that this poor guy's not on his centroid point, which needs to be here. No, it doesn't really matter because he's about to become glued to this leg. But that's okay. We'll get there. Okay. Now that we've done that, you can see we've already got, and even though it is simpler, has fewer polygons, yada, 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 it still looks good. It still looks totally solid. Like this is a completely reasonable design. And it's going to look just fine when it's fully mapped and there's all kinds of stuff going on. It'll be just fine. It'll be good. It'll be totally solid. Right? Much simpler design. Doesn't take up as much space. Things like that. And we can put truck fronts on it if we really want. So it can be a truck with walking legs, or it can be a car with walking legs, or anything of the sort. So Okay, the next thing we're going to do is one more leg. So we're going to go into object mode. We're going to add mesh cube. Bring that guy up here too. And this time I'm going to do this the smart way. I'm going to line the cube up with its existing point. And then we're going to go to edit mode. And then that way we don't have to change that later. Okay, so here's that leg inner joint. And this part will just go all the way to here. And this leg could probably be kind of cool if it went like this. Right? Now we're going to see the feet a lot because it'll be standing up on its feet and you'll have people standing around going blah, 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 and there'll be a foot behind it. So I want to make the feet a little bit more back in the saddle again. Want to make the feet a little bit more like a little bit more attractive. I feel like George is in the sink. This is a thing. Are you in the sink? Were you in the sink? Nah. You say that like you don't know whether you were in the sink or not. I feel like you were in the sink. Recently, our sink has been clogged by cat hair. We've been trying to figure that one out. Actually, we didn't have to figure that one out. It was pretty obvious. Black cat hair means George. Okay, so there we go. So both legs, we'll do the same thing here. Take object mode, move you to your center point there. We'll go to edit mode, take this part, move it to right there. And this part we can move to right here. And we can kind of take these guys and move them in just a little. Move this in just a little. Just kind of tapering it just a hair, right? Because, I mean, really, it's just going to sit there and just kind of walk along like that. So I'm not terribly worried. It's sure that it's got some kind of awesome thing. I don't know. Okay. And now we have both pieces of the leg there. Although this guy is, in fact, collapsing into the gear runner up here. So we don't want it to be in the gear runner. So let's bring that forward until it's not in the gear runner anymore. And actually, it could just sit like this. And maybe not quite that pointy, though. I feel like that's asking to have your streets torn up by the feet of the... And I mean, it's like, well, we had a walker in here, and the walker decided the person was like walking all the time, and so they decided to put their GPV, MPV into
walk mode. They walk through the town. Crunch, 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 crunch. So maybe not so pointed. Okay. There we go. All right. So now we're looking at this design here, and that's not bad. That's a much cleaner leg than we had before. I mean, these legs down here are great, but they're super detailed. And it was just so many pieces, parts, and everything would have to be unwrapped and pulled apart and yanked apart. Oh, what a mess. Okay, so we didn't want to do that. We're going to, by the way, save as. We're going to call this MPB version 4. All right. Now, the thing I'm also thinking about here is the way that this upper leg connects. This part of the leg is absolutely straight. It is a hinge. It is just one hinge, right? But this part, it can move down like this and it can pivot out, right? So looking at this, I feel like what it should have is a hinge inside the hinge so that it's got sort of a turn and then a hinge. So we're going to mimic that by going into object mode. We're going to come back to this guy. Go back to edit mode. Go to sideways. We're going to take you. We're going to move you back to here. We're going to extrude. Right to there, and then extrude again. I'm thinking this through. I'm going to take you two and move you down to here, and take you two and move you up to here. And this is that hinge we're talking about there. I'm going to extrude just a little bit further so I can give it a little bit of a curve. It should be a ball joint. It was a ball joint before, but like I said, we have a problem wrapping, unwrapping spheres, cylinders. When you have them round like this, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line for it? How do you map a line that can be seen by, so that whenever I render it, it has a line around it? There's no way to do that. Because on a sphere, you'd have to draw the line wherever. Here, let's see if I can show you with my dice roller, right? Here's my dice roller. Normally, we've got this black line right here, which works. That's fine. But where's the line here? We need a line to indicate the top of this when you do a toon render, right? But where do we put that line? If you think about this line right here, that's fine, but now the line is here. So you get a line in the middle of it like this. If you want it to be like this, you can only angle the model towards the camera this way. You can't ever turn it or twist it like this. It won't work. So that's the problem. And that's why I can't use circles or spheres. So a ball joint would be ideal for this. You're absolutely right. A ball joint would be perfect. But the problem with a ball joint is that we can't actually render it. I'd have to manually draw the ball joint every time we have have this guy in a scene, even if he's way in the background. He'd be way, way, way back there. We got 16 MPVs in the scene. They're all marching in. And every time I have to go in there and draw the little ball joint, draw the little ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, ball joint. You know, it's going to, and I'll miss one. And when I do, everybody will see it and I won't. And I'll be so mad. Stupid ball joint. You know. So what we're going to do is not a ball joint. We're going to take this joint. We're going to go like that because it doesn't really need to be that big. And we can take this guy and bring him back. And this is mimicking a rounded edge into the joint. I'm going to take this and extrude him out and do the same thing on the bottom. And go to the side here. We'll go back into the... Does that make any sense? Did I make sense there, or was I just like rambling? Or was it both? Making sense and rambling. All of these things could have occurred. Just making this look designy in a way, make it look viable. There we go. We'll go to the front. We'll come out of this into object mode because now we actually need to pull this hip piece back. So we're going to go back into edit mode and go here and pull it back to about there. We want it to be far enough back that it looks like it fits in there. We're going to have to do the same thing to the other side. So this guy is going to have to come back halfway. Whatever we do over here, we have to do over here, obviously. Okay. So now when we look at that hip piece, now it's got sort of a connector that goes through here, which allows it to move this way, you know, but also allows it to move outward like that. Which, you know, we're doing it for complete functionality of this, but some engineer someday may go, that's a brilliant design that he had there. And I will say, yes, I intended it that way. Not because of expediency for rendering, so I won't have to go in and draw ball joints. I meant to do it that way. Right? I mean, totally. I tell you, this is important. All right. We probably could get extra long legs at this point in time if we wanted to put the legs across like this and have the top leg come up here and sit up there so that they kind of snap together like this. I believe I did that with the original legs. These legs, see how they've got this extender? I feel like that extender was that was the whole point of those extenders. So let's go on ahead and go back to that object mode, click this outer leg, edit mode, and let's talk about putting the extenders all the way through to say here or something. Insert sarcastic clap. Why? Oh, because of my performance there. Come now. You know my performance. In naked mode. There we go. See, right? I totally make it. I just. A mime is a terrible thing to wait. Whoa. How are we wasting mimes? Poor mimes. Let's be realistic. They didn't do it. Okay. And we could probably go almost all the way to the length of the other leg. Kind of feel like I need to duplicate this leg and figure out where the heck it's going. Copy, paste. Take this leg and flip it over around. Because we want to we want them to fit kind of like this. It's very right. Which means I want this to kind of go down a little bit more. So that it fits nicely right there. Right? Isn't that cool? Look at that. And now I feel very much like, It's like, it's not quite going as far as I want it to, because this leg needs to, this upper leg, kind of needs to go out further. So let's, first things first, let's take you and copy and paste and then put you an equidistant space, right, from the center line. So this is 1, 2, 3 boxes out. So 1, 2, 3 boxes out, and it puts you right there. So this leg needs to somehow actually be here in order to make this work. Right? We can probably raise this guy up because we've got some space here. But we've got to make a decision as to whether really in reality does the back leg, do we want it to, I mean, what's our difference here? Because that's what we really need to figure out, is what is our difference in engineering. This, by the way, is a lot of fun for me. I really love thinking through engineering and design. So I love the idea of this thing being some kind of walker, and it is what it is, and it does a walking machine of some sort. It's also some semblance of a monster of it's kind of this like monsterific design. Okay, so this guy can be
there. This guy can be there. But these two need to go. Let's look at the difference. Okay. We want this guy to be this guy. So we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the difference is 5. So it's 2.5 on each side. So we need everybody to move forward 1, 2.5. Right? No, not you. Just you. Go to object mode, delete this guy. Luckily, nobody's really relying heavily on my engineering to live. We are much closer. Okay, so the difference between this guy and this guy is now, it's actually not this guy and this guy, is it? It's this guy and this guy. So the difference between you and you is these two match, but we don't want them to go further. So the difference, okay, from here to here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.5. It's got to go 12.5 longer. So we know that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a quarter. Because it's not 12.5 for both. It's only 12.5 for one. So 1, 2, 3 and a smidge. Because everybody's going to start moving a little bit further down the line, right? So take you, we'll delete you because we don't need you anymore. You, copy paste. Take you and then flip you over 180 degrees. And put you here. Now we're talking. Okay. Now I feel like there can be a difference between the front legs and the back legs. They don't have to be identical in this one. But closer is better. And this looks a whole lot closer. So we'll go into edit mode on this one. And well, first things first, we'll go into object mode and let's drop it down so that it's in the actual wheel unit like it's supposed to be. And then we'll go to edit mode and we can move things around now. For one, crap. There we go. Move this up so that it's like so, right? And then we can move this guy back so that he fits right there nicely. Move this guy down so that fits nicely. We'll move this guy back till it fits really nicely there. And we'll put this guy here. Nope, that was not what I wanted you to do. And then we'll put this guy here. They have to be the same length. Otherwise, it walks around like this. Tick, 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 tick. So they have to be the same length. The legs have to be the same length to just make sure that everything sits properly. So that's not a unpleasant thing necessarily. I'm just going to make this a little thicker right through there, and then move this back a little further because it doesn't need to be quite that high up. Here we go. Just make sure they match right up. Those legs are going to sit right next to each other. Right? They're going to sit just like that. That looks solid. Right? It looks like an undercarriage. It looks like it's not a real problem. And then it'll all deploy out and stretch out. And you'll be like, whoa, what happened to that thing? Right? It'd be really amazing. So, do this. Mecha design. Yes. There is one other thing we need to do. We need to build the docking clamp on the bottom side of the vessel, because it does, this thing connects to the back of the kittiwake. In that back garage, it connects sideways. So we need to have a bottom side docking array ring. That's all we need, is a docking ring on that bottom side. So we'll go like this. The question is, it's probably here, is that docking alignment ring, right? So we're going to go on ahead and go into object mode. The feet look like they're fine. These feet look like they're perfectly okay. Those legs are going to kick butt when they extend out. And this leg then is easy. Once we've assembled all the pieces for it, it'll be fine. The last thing we need is the wheel cup that holds the wheel forward on this. And I'm just going to actually just copy and paste this guy. Pull him forward. We'll make him bigger. We'll make him bigger the wrong way, apparently. There we go. Go into naked mode, side view. We'll do this. Edit mode. No. Object mode. Edit mode. We'll pull this backward like so. We'll pull this one backward as well. And then we will pull this up and over. Like that. I'll pull this one down too. And what we really need to do is import the MPV, or the standard wheel, into this. That we've got to see what we've got to do here. So we're going to import wavefront object, knowing that in here we've got all the original vehicle pieces. So we can just pull in that wheel.object. And there's our wheel, right? Wheelie it is. So we can also take this guy now. Object mode. Did you connect you? No. Good. Because that would have been stupid thing to do. Okay, The wheel's a little large. Makes me think that we are out of scale for everybody else. So I'm going to take all of these pieces and I'm going to actually delete them at this point in time, because now we've gotten to the point where I feel like we need to scale to the actual pieces that exist. So import, we're going to import a wavefront object too. We're going to take this truck cab, right? We've got this truck cab. We've got stuff like that. We've been sort of doing things in a varying degree of scale and things like that. So we've got this truck cab here. I'll look at him, here. We definitely want the ability to do a truck cab and import wavefront truck bed. We have a truck bed, but I feel like we need the car back. Is that the one we wanted? Yeah, car back. Okay, so we've got the car back and the truck bed. Why are they of different scales? You people. Okay. So the whole point here is that we're all on a unified scale, huh? Like everything's the same. Okay. It's going the wrong direction, which is fine. We can rotate it. We'll go to the top and rotate it 90 degrees, 180 degrees. See, now the cab is bigger than, I don't know what you people are doing. Okay. Because you need to now be scaled in a different way, like this way. We may have to revisit the cars too, because I don't think I was doing anything in a useful scale. It's hard doing all of this. And like I say, the good news is we only have to do it once, but it is kind of aggravating to have to do it once. Okay. These guys are all scaled to the proper scale. So that's what a truck's wheel looks like, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now we know that. So all of this now needs to be scaled up to fit, because we want it to fit like a sled on the truck. So we move the truck here like so. See how that works? The idea being that the sled now, although I think it's a little big now. I know that you're like, what? The truth is that this sled should be a little smaller, like so. There. Fitting the standard wheel. All right, so the idea here, going to the front, standard wheel goes there. Okay, so now we do need to redo the vehicles, because the vehicles are too narrow to fit on the sled. And I think that they need to be more like the sled should be the set, should be the standard. So we're going to do that. I don't think when we built these vehicles in the vehicle set that we thought about it. I really don't. I feel like we didn't think about this at all. Like, how is this all going to fit in the real world? Like, the tires feel really thin. I don't want them to be this thin. So we're going to, there we go. See that? They looked more like something that you'd find on like I think the vehicle set needed to be worked on. Anyway, okay, so there we go. Now we're a little bit better off. That's probably more what we're looking for. Right? So when you're talking about a transport truck with extensor legs on the sled as a shuttle, that's what it looks like. Which is what it should be.
The bottom part of the sled holds 2 arms, by the way. So the arms can come out so that you can use this as a repair sled as well, or a repair shuttle. Okay, I feel like this is a better rig than we had before. So I like this better. And I think I'm going to call this my generic vehicle pack. Because then you can have anything you want here. I think that's actually kind of cool. You know? Okay, so we're going to go like this. We're going to bring this in. And in fact, we probably should just bring all the vehicle pieces in and scale them properly. Everything here is like 17 meters tall, and I don't think any vehicle is 17 meters. What is standard? Box truck height meters. Yeah, because a box truck is 2.8 meters high. Right? Oh, hey, somebody posted like a whole like thing here. Maybe I should say lorry. Because you kind of want to talk about these things being a transport vehicle. 4.3 meters, which makes sense. Same height as a floor, right? That makes some sense. Now that I'm thinking about it, that makes some sense. So, okay, so if you talk about a standard truck, a lorry, being 4.3 meters tall, so they can fit into a like a normal whatever. Oh, it'd be so cool if it had if the lorry could have a secondary wheel unit right here for secondary structure. That'd be so cool. Anyway, we're gonna rescale you down 1, 2, 3, 4 to 4 meters. Not quite. There, 4 meters. All right, now we are the correct scale to fit within the buildings. By the way, that's also very. It's also useful to have it scaled so that it's proper inside a building. Which means that, what are the height of wheels? Tire sizes in metric units. Yeah. Oh, 80 centimeters. Which means that it should not be more than a meter big. Even for like the largest wheels. Well, that's not bad. I mean, that's not horrible. I guess it's not terrible. Just kind of looking at it. It's a meter and a
half, though. That is a long damn. I mean, a person is going to stand here, right? So maybe we are too big. This is more like a box truck and less like a lorry truck or whatever. More like a box truck. Maybe we'll scale it down just a hair more. Because it says the biggest wheels that they make are 80 centimeters or 1 meter almost. So that's still, I mean, that's still not small. That's this big around. So I'll make my wheels 1 meter. And then that way we don't have to worry about it as much. I'm also going to go to the front here and let's take a look at that wheel. Now we were just talking about wheels and how I said I didn't like the idea of making round things, but the wheels are going to be black. The round part of the wheels are black. And this is not a motorcycle tire. We will do motorcycles just for you, so people can ride their motorcycles. Okay, so we've got that. Object mode back into here, go to here. Edit mode, this guy. Okay, so what we're doing is we're building in the infrastructure for the little wheel runner, which controls the wheels on this so that they can spin, but they're spinning from a holder. So the wheels are rolled inside these motor units right here instead of being rolled out inside there. Which looks kind of cool this way. Although I feel like engineering wise, I need to bring this piece out more. But that still looks pretty kick butt. Not going to lie. Okay, but we can bring, like, these guys can come in. Like so. That makes it even cooler looking, right? And then these guys can be brought in just a hair. Nope, not that much though. Actually, I feel like we can take all of these guys and push them back to maybe here. And then take you and extend it back like this. And then from this side, this engine unit here, this guy can be brought down like so. There we go. And give it a little bit of some angles to work with. Right? We're kind of doing that. We can bring this guy in more, or maybe out more. Out more. Oh, out more. Yeah, that's what needs to happen. We can bring all of this in more a little. Make sure it's not cutting the bottom of the wheel. Nope. Looks good. Looks solid. Fine. This guy can come back. Tell how far back can we go? Maybe there. And you can come back. There. That looks pretty kick butt. Let me take you and move you in. And it's a motor housing, so, but this part doesn't need to be this snug against the other leg. Right, so I can pull back just a little so it's not quite as snug up against the leg. There. Like so. There we go. Still looks a little bit bulkier than I kind of want it to be. But I mean, it is an engine housing, so it's there's a motor inside there. It can't be nothing, you know. Speaking of motors, let's switch to this guy because he needs to be extended out just a little bit more inside here. I feel like we got kind of a problem because he needs to really be about mid wheel. And the reason he needs to be about mid wheel is twofold. One, we need him to be connected to this engine motor piece. But two, the MPV uses this as a thruster pod, and you don't want it too far back. Otherwise, the thrust coming out is going to melt the tires off so that, you know, it's going to be kind of difficult. But the MPV uses that as a thruster unit. So it needs to be able to rotate those and put them underneath, which is another thing we got to think about. That has to be pieced together in a way that it can be rotated. Probably the best bet would be to have the hinge at the main core point, because there really doesn't need to be a ball joint like you were saying. It's just not. And that's just the way it goes. So we will save as they are properly scaled. Everybody's correctly scaled. And stiff. All right. So there we go, guys. We've done a lot of work on the MPVs today. We did a lot of work on vehicles. I think the vehicles are properly scaled now, which is good because they will actually fit inside the buildings when we build the buildings and put them together. It may mean that we're going to have to go through and remap everything, but we'll get there. That wasn't that hard. So we'll work on that as time goes on. We should have some vehicles. I'm actually going to build a new H-frame underneath the vehicles. It's a standard frame for underneath this so that it just holds the wheels instead of having these long legs. The legs are great. Having them swap outable is cool. It's just a little bit complicated for your standard civilian fare. So a civilian vehicle is just going to have an H-frame, which is a frame that goes like an H underneath it with a box to hold the truck piece and the back piece. And then the frame's going to be this H that holds the wheels in the front and the back. So then it just tootles along. And then maybe a battery pack underneath it. And then we'll leave that like that. And then that'll be the way it goes. So anyway, I will see you all next week. I leave for Houston on Wednesday. So there will be... Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You don't need treads if you've got legs, right? Treads are designed for, climbing over walls and rough terrain and, things that do this. Whereas if you've got legs, you just walk, the vehicle just walks along. So you don't need, that's the point of having legs, is that way we don't need to worry about treads. Because treads would be cool, but you really just use treads for rough surfaces. Like we're going to climb over, I don't know, rough terrain. But if you've got rough terrain, you've got legs. But the leg pieces here that we're building for these leg pieces could also be, that would be kind of a wild thing, is if you had cranes and backhoes and they just had legs. He's like, backhoes like climbing along to get to this spot, and then they start digging a thing, and then they walk away from the spot. It'd be kind of cool. So to be fair, that'd be kind of nifty. So there we go. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe treads, but if everything is printable and everything is free, effectively, not free, but you get the idea. It doesn't cost us any different to design something with legs than it does with treads. And we have the mind to computer, not you, connector going, where all you have to do is think it and your legs walk, then it doesn't, we probably don't need treads, and gives me the really cool science fiction-y effect of mecha wandering around all over the place. Yeah, send me an image. Okay, I will see you guys next week. I'll see you on Monday. All things are going along just fine here. And I will talk to you guys later. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Bye. Computer, good night.